Well, AI is a giant topic in culture as a whole, but specifically when it comes to the entertainment industry, and how will it and will it not be used and applied? As a matter of fact, the big strikes of the actor strike and the writer's strike a couple of years ago, certainly not the only issue, but one of the main pillar issues of that was the unions wanting to have some firm controls over how much AI can actually be used. There was some talk about the fact that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have kind of put some venture capital into an AI company. But now the biggest thing of them all, Martin Scorsese. Like, I don't know that there, I mean, you're talking Scorsese, Spielberg. I mean, there's not much names bigger than that or more influential in this space. But Martin Scorsese has now come out and he said he is going to start using AI. As a matter of fact, he's become an advisor, a board advisor for an AI company that he says he's going to be using. Now, not for making the films, but he says in the pre-production stage, particularly when it comes to storyboarding, he's going to use that. Anyway, the folks over at Variety write the following. This says, could the next Godfather or Goodfellas be fully made with AI, or perhaps the next Wolf of Wall Street? Martin Scorsese likely wouldn't do that, at least yet, but the 83-year-old Oscar-winning director has become the latest auteur to embrace the technology on after he joined the German AI firm Black Forest Labs as an advisor. Scorsese is the highest profile filmmaker to embrace the technology, roiling many of his Hollywood peers and potentially representing a paradigm shift in how the film industry accepts its use. Now, in the interview that they did with Scorsese, he pointed out very specifically that the way he envisions this, he says, look, it's always been difficult for any creator to make that transition from, the concept into a head into then visualizing it onto a page, right? And, a lot of people, a lot of directors will do their own storyboarding. Guillermo del Toro is one of those guys. Some people employ artists to do that. For those of you who don't know, storyboarding is basically, you illustrate out the shots of the movie. What will this play out like, right, in the movie? So that when you go to film the movie, you already know what you're going to be doing. And Martin Scorsese said he's primarily going to be doing this to use as in his storyboarding format, not in the actual filmmaking itself. Now, Rob, as you can imagine, there's been a lot of discussion in the last 24 hours or so about this. Some people very angry. I've seen even on social media, like people who are huge Martin Scorsese fans lamenting, saying, I almost cried because, this is going to take jobs away from storyboard artists and, below the line people who work in pre-production and all that kind of stuff. And as we've talked before about AI in filmmaking. And even though we've been having this discussion for well over a year now, I'm still not exactly sure where I land. Because on the one hand, have you seen any of the Star Wars AI made films? Particularly there's one where Luke, goes back to Tatooine and he's going through the caves. And like I had people write to me and say, John, you got to see this. This was all AI made and it's amazing. I'm like, okay, cool. And I watched it and it's absolute total garbage. Like it's absolutely terrible. But if you take still shots of it, I mean, it looks really good. It looks convincing, but it's absolutely terrible. Like, that's not a good story. That's not an entertaining thing to watch. And the idea about whenever technology is going to be taking away jobs from people, that's always a big thing. So that's one half of my brain. The other half of my brain though, is also, and we've talked about this before, is that we have all used technology over the past 20 years to do things for us now that otherwise we would have had to have hired other people to do. That in the basic, and I can hear the people are great. No, but John, this is different. No, it's not fucking different. This is the same. In principle, this is the same. When new technology comes along that if you utilize it may replace the job of somebody else, that's the principle here. And we have all done that. I mean, everybody does that. Today, everybody does that. As a matter of fact, Rob, I'll let you know a practical example that Ann and I have just done. We've had, because we both work and whatever, we keep our house very tidy, but every 2 weeks we have this lady comes in and does a more deeper clean of the house, right? Just because we like to have the house clean. So every couple of weeks, not every
Your
day,
house
every
is
week.
very clean.
Yeah, we like to keep it clean. And even when she's not here, we like to keep it tidy. But, just to make sure it stays clean, every couple of weeks we have this lady come in for a couple of hours. Well, Anne just recently bought a Roomba. It's not actually Roomba, it's another brand. I think it's the Eufy brand anyway. But she bought one of these automated little vacuums that will go around the house and, vacuum and mop the floor and clean up all the dog hair because our dog sheds a lot. And we realized, okay, now we only have to have the lady come once a month. Us taking advantage of that technology just cut this person's shifts in half, at least when it comes to working with us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of examples of that, of how we, like, all throughout the last couple of decades, technology comes along that allows us to replace labor that somebody else could have done for us. And I have to ask the question, is it all that fundamentally different for filmmakers, particularly if it's below the line and in things like pre-production, where, listen, if the director just needs to visualize something, should they not be able to use modern technology? And so, Rob, there are the two sides of my brain. I'm still not really sure where I come down on this, but I think it's fascinating now that we got a guy like Martin Scorsese is coming out and saying, I'm going to start using this technology for my pre-production work. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Pocket Hose. Guys, I'm excited to tell you about the world's #1 expanding garden hose and their brand new product, the Pocket Hose Ballistic. As you guys can imagine, I'm not exactly gentle with my gear. I drag hoses across concrete over the pool, yank them around corners. I even coil and uncoil them all the time to put them in my camper van when I go out on my movie meetups. And generally speaking, a lot of them don't last. But the Pocket Hose Ballistic has been a totally different story for me. It's incredibly durable, super lightweight, and just makes the whole job easier. One of my favorite things is how simple it is to use. You turn the water on, it expands. Turn it off, it shrinks right back down to pocket size. And it's reinforced with a liquid crystal polymer, the same kind of material used in bulletproof vests. Plus, it comes with the pocket pivot, which gives you 360-degree rotation at the spigot so it moves with you instead of fighting against you. And now, for a limited time, when you purchase a new Pocket Hose Ballistic, you'll get a free 360-degree rotating pocket pivot and a free thumb drive nozzle. Just text Campea to 64,000. That's CAMPEA to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Text Campea to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. Anyway, you read and saw his interview. You see the issues. You've seen what other people are saying about it. What do you think about a filmmaker of the stature, of Martin Scorsese now coming out and say, I'm going to start using this? What do you think?
Well, I watched a video of him and it seemed like he was working with a storyboard artist and designing shots for his new movie. And so he had somebody working. So here's the way I look at it. I'm using a storyboard program called Storyboarder AI myself to completely storyboard a film that I want to direct. Now, this is a film that I wouldn't necessarily maybe get the job directing, but everybody now wants a lookbook. They want to see, what is your vision for this movie? Well, they can watch it. And the storyboard program now are so sophisticated, you can pick your lens size and design your shots, whether you're 25 millimeter lens, a 35 millimeter, 50 millimeter lens. You can put moves on your storyboards, whether you want them to handheld moves or a tracking move. It's insane. And then you can, for me, what it's great as a directing tool, I'm doing this all myself and I'm using the program, but I'm going to come out with a tool that I can then show to every department. Assuming I get this job, I can show every department head exactly what is in my head, so they can look at it and go, okay, so for the sets, this is what you want us to build. You want us to have these kind of costumes. It is an invaluable resource. Now, I can't draw. So I would have to employ somebody, but I don't have any money. This is a spec project. So I'm using this program to literally make something that I couldn't make without this tool, without this AI tool. But I'm not taking anyone's job away, because it would never have gotten done unless somebody had given me seed money to pay a storyboard artist. But I can also, it's what's in my own head. And like you pointed out, John, when nonlinear editing software came out, I'm specifically speaking of the Avid, in the mid 90s, I taught myself Avid. I was working at an ad agency and I became an Avid editor, and I specialized in editing low budget first time directors features. I could never have done that without the computer technology. Never. And suddenly I became a one man band editing these low budget movies, and I was able to provide a service that was much better than a lot of these directors would have got, because they had low budgets, and I was willing to work on a low budget. But it was that new technology. And sure, did I need an assistant editor? I didn't. I didn't work. I did all the work myself. And so theoretically, yes, we put out of work an assistant editor, but these people didn't have the money to pay assistant editors anyway. So I ended up learning using this new technology, and I see AI technology. I'm not interested in seeing finished content produced by AI. I still think that the human element is going to make something better than if you're just using the AI programs, because the AI programs are only going to give you a median. They're going to give you a median between this or this. But it's the human element that makes something special, that gives that, a little pop, a little pizzazz, a little jazz, if you will. So I think AI used as tools can be very effective, and I don't know why anybody wouldn't avail themselves of it, because it'll streamline the production process, it'll bring down the costs, and it'll allow filmmakers. I mean, look at Kane Parsons, who made Back Rooms. He was using digital technology to make his back room shorts by himself, and he was able to parlay that into directing a feature.
Yeah. I mean, look, I even look at stuff like, we've talked about this before, because I used to work with in the CGI industry and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's like, before, you would have to have artists actually sit down with pencils and ink and draw every single frame. If you wanted to have a princess throwing her arms up in the air, you had to have like 72 individual pieces of art. But now, today, forget AI. You use any of the whether it's Blender or the more advanced CGI equipment, all you got to do is, once you model it and get the framework in, you say, okay, now move here to here, render, and the computer generates the in-between frames. Yeah. And sure, you fine tune it. Some people in the live chat are pointing out, listen, like, news organizations only employ like 10% of what they used to employ, because it used to be paper, and it used to be ink, and it used to be delivery. You had to distribute the newspapers and all that stuff. The very fact that you and I now just pick up our phone and we just get our news on the phone, we literally eliminated 90% of the jobs that were in the news industry. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm simply saying that's the progress of technology. And that's why I'm still kind of on the fence about all this and trying to figure out where morally we draw a line. I just don't know.
I think that you just brought up the idea of in between, like doing animation. There was an actual animation job called in betweener that was there to make the movements, when someone raised their arms, just like what you were talking about. But I think there's two things going on here. There is people that are thinking that fully generated AI movies are bad. And I agree. I don't think you can give, like you were talking about those Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Even
terrible.
though people are making them, that's fully generated AI content. You can now, like, if I want somebody to make me an AI generated Gone with the Wind and have the burning of Atlanta, you can get that done in AI if you want to. The problem is AI is generating a full-on frame. You're getting everything in that frame generated by AI. So you can't go, well, I'd rather, I want to move the camera in or move the camera out, or I want less. Then you have to regenerate the entire frame. And so it doesn't give you a lot of ways to change things. And that will change over time. But if you're generating an entire frame, everything in that frame is somebody's job. The production design, the props, the actor, the special effects, all of it, camera people. And I'm not really that interested in seeing fully AI generated content. And I think that's the real danger. The real question though is, in 5 or 10 years, we're going to have a generation of kids growing up in a world where fully generative AI movies are going to be the norm, not the exception. And will they see a difference? When somebody makes the first all AI generated film that's really good, and again, I think that's going to come from human taste. Somebody's got to have taste and understand filmmaking. They have to understand editorial. They have to understand emotion. They have to understand writing. but they might be able to create a fully generated movie that's actually pretty good, but I don't think they can do it without the human element.
Yeah, I
Not
remember this. I know we've been talking about this a long time, so let me just finish off with this thing. I might have talked about this before, but I also used to co-own a web design company many years ago. And, this was kind of back when if you wanted to build websites, you had to know HTML, you had to know CSS, you had to do all that kind of stuff. You had to hand code, you had to do like a bunch of stuff. And so there were a lot, and the web was exploding. So there were a bunch of, web design boutiques and stuff like that. But once programs like NetFusion and programs like Dreamweaver and all these things, suddenly technology came out where people if they just wanted a simple website, they didn't need to hire web designers anymore. They could just do it all on their own. And that killed. I remember, in the city we were in, we had to have about probably 20 or 30 web boutiques that were making things.
Yeah.
Within about 2 years, I think 3 of them were left. Same way with editing. You mentioned you were an avid editor. It used to be before, if you wanted edited video, you had to hire a video editor.
Yeah.
Well, now with DaVinci Resolve being free and CapCut and all these things, like, it doesn't matter. All these TikTokers, whatever, can just edit their own videos. Oftentimes, just right on their phone, they can. So, like, video editing. I know a lot of video editors who say, like, work dried up. So, I mean, again, I have no interest in seeing AI filmmaking. I have no interest in it. But do I have a problem with people utilizing AI tools in developing the film idea, storyboards, things like that? I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, it's one thing to have been in theory for a long time, but now Martin Scorsese himself has come out and said, I'm going to start using AI for at least for storyboarding, right? Not for making the films themselves, but for my storyboarding idea. Is this a slippery slope? I don't know. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.